Welcome to Remainders, where we talk all things movies. And today we've got a good one, the 1957 classic Night. I'm sorry, I've been excited for Charles Laughton. We're watching the 1957 movie Witness for the Prosecution. My name is Patrick. Darren, how's it going, bud?
It's going good, Pat. Good to see you today. And
I'm obviously high on the Charles Laughton run, so I have just visions of Night of the Hunter, obviously.
I feel like we haven't gotten enough of him on this podcast, even though we've covered it before, like you said, with Night of the Hunter, in which he is on fire with, probably what he's best known for. But this film I had never seen before, and it has a twist ending that could shock even M. Night Shyamalan.
Damn. Okay, so it's been a minute since we talked. You have not seen this before.
I have never seen this film before. I had not. Obviously, it's Billy Wilder, like right up my alley. I don't know.
I was going to say, this is fantastic. I mean, you're the vintage Hollywood, the classical Hollywood guy on the podcast. And wow, okay, so this is going to be good. This is one of my favorite movies of the 50s. And it's kind of an odd one because I've stated before, like plot is just not something that attracts me to movies just in general. It's the aesthetics and everything else that goes into it that really drives me to all the movies that I love. And so this one is pretty plot driven, but there is something about this movie when I saw it in my early 20s. The performances are largely a huge part of it. I absolutely love this movie, and now I'm very excited to hear your thoughts on it for the first time. Because, like you said, the pedigree is all there, but I feel like this one is not as talked about as some of the other classic Hollywood movies that we've mentioned before.
Well, before we get into it, we should probably explain a little bit of the film if you'd like to. I think for our audience, just to kind of get an understanding of the film and who's in it and all that kind of stuff.
This is a big one. Charles Laughton basically plays a retired judge being toted around by his nurse, played by Ella Lancaster of the Bride of Frankenstein fame, preventing him from smoking, drinking. Number one rule is to not take on any murder cases. And what happens? Tyrone Power comes in, accused of murder from the older rich woman that he's become friends with. And he is the main suspect that drives this accusation after she's found murdered. And this leads to a good setup with his wife, who provides an alibi, but is not necessarily one that's going to get him off. And this leads to the second half, which is all courtroom drama, which I absolutely love. I mean, like I said, this movie it's based on an Agatha Christie short story, or story, I should say, and it is pretty straightforward in terms of like that was Agatha Christie's genius, is that she was all about great setup and providing you with a scenario that you just like could not look away from. And in this, with Tyrone Power being accused of murder for this older woman, you're in it instantly, seeing how it's going to unfold. And I mean, I should say straight off, like, this is going to be like a spoilers-free podcast. What do you think?
We have to talk about the ending. I mean, you know what I mean? We just have to, yeah.
Well, that's I'm on the edge. I mean, this is one of the few movies that I've ever seen, maybe you can enlighten me, that actually says, don't give away the ending to your friends. And I love that ending where it's basically just after the credits is, do not give away the ending to your friends.
Yeah, I know for sure Psycho...
Did Psycho do that?
Well, not the ending, of course, but I think there was like you can't come into the theater late. That was like the whole thing. Like if you come into it late, you're going to miss like the whole setup to obviously killing Janet Leigh, within the first hour there. And obviously like they didn't want people to give away that plot point because that's such a big shocker to everybody, which obviously is really like a cool thing, that had never been done. It's like, you're going to kill off the lead character. But in this film, just to mention his wife in quotes, if you're listening, I'm doing the quote marks with balloons, obviously, that just went up. I don't understand how this happened. Somehow there's some new technology came in on Zoom. And, when you do things like thumbs up, it gives you like a thumbs up sign and different things like that. Anyway, not to get off the point, Tyrone Power's wife, in quotes, is played by Marlene Dietrich, which... she's great in this.
She is so fucking good. I'm blown away. Like, because I really hadn't seen her in like too much. And when I first saw this movie years ago, I was just like, this is obviously one of the best actresses of all time. It's
for sure.
Largely based on this performance.
But I mean, yeah, as you said, stacked. We got Billy Wilder directing, and I believe he co-wrote this film.
Yep.
Obviously, the screenplay, not the novel. But then you have Charles Laughton, killing it. And obviously, too, thinking about this movie, if it was made there's been many remakes of it. I think 2 at least that I know of, and to like cast somebody like Charles Laughton as the lead in this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like I don't think they could do that this like day and age. They wouldn't think that him as like a lead character just seems weird, but it's like perfect. Especially because he's playing somebody that is sickly. As you said, he's coming in. We get to be introduced to him in this film right away, coming home from having a heart attack. And yeah, his nurse being very much like, no smoking, no drinking, nothing that's going to kill you. And of course, all of those things he wants to do right away, mainly taking on this murder case that he can't look away from. And that's so relatable to people because if you love to do something, there's nothing that's going to really keep you from it. And that drives this character down a pretty big rabbit hole of did Tyrone Power, he believes him right away. And there's something with this monocle that he's got on that he puts on. And he like always to try to get the truth out of people. It's almost like he shines the light on them, but it's like from the reflection of his monocle. And after he does this whole questioning of Tyrone Power, the last thing he does is he's got this like really, really focused questioning on him with the monocle in his face. And what an interesting way of kind of revealing the truth. Then he realizes at that point, he's like, I see that you're telling the truth, which we find out later on might not be actually the truth. And I believed the entire film that Tyrone Power was legit.
I mean, you were fooled with Charles Laughton as well. So we are going spoilers, right?
I mean, we have to.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry,
I mean, it's just we're for our audience listening, we're going spoilers on this, which is definitely cool.
Well, this film is 2 hours long. Okay, so you have to watch the film, and you have to be really, really focused on the dialogue, the performances, to really get a very satisfying ending from this film. The ending is super, super satisfying, but if you're not paying attention, it's going to be lost on you, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, it's intricate for sure. But like I said, my favorite aspect of this movie is the 3 central performances. And honestly, like watching them go, I mean, one thing I realized is like everybody's like almost on the opposite spectrum of like where they start. You have Charles Laughton, he's starting off sickly and wanting to get back into it, and he's basically defeated by the end. Tyrone Power acting all innocent at the beginning and does a complete 180 at the end. And then Marlene Dietrich being very cold and calculated at the beginning, and we could say it basically literally playing another person, and is also defeated by the end. I mean, just the spectrum of like where they start and where they end up. And like I said, their performances of going there is absolutely what makes this one of my favorites. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, well said. I can't even say anything other than being surprised at the end was, in large part because you're believing these performances the whole time and who these people are. And Marlene Dietrich, the way she's like, you don't understand to Charles Laughton. It's like, I love him, and I was willing to go to these lengths. And then you find out like, and I was even fooled by Marlene Dietrich with the fucking costume shit that she had on. I mean, that was insane. And then she does it and she gets close up to the camera, like Billy Wilder shooting that scene. That was probably my favorite scene of the film, when she does like the accent to him, and she's getting close up to the camera and really in your face, and it's like to the audience is like gasping. I mean, I was like, oh my god, like she was like, she foiled everybody.
The ducky lady. So basically, they're looking like he's going to get convicted, and we get a last minute call from an anonymous source, the Ducky Lady, and she has proof that exonerates Tyrone Power, basically. And yeah, like you said, I mean, just that it is right there. It's like her performance, Marlene Dietrich playing that woman in makeup. Partly the makeup, you can't really tell it's her like on the screen, but it is because of her performance as like a completely different person that yeah, I remember being absolutely blown away the first time I saw it.
Yeah. And also knowing Tyrone Power from Nightmare Alley, you've seen or no?
I have not. Yeah, I've read the book and I saw the Del Toro
Remake.
version. Yeah, for sure. And I've been meaning to watch it. I know you love it and it's supposed to be great, but I've never seen that one.
Yeah, the original Nightmare Alley is my favorite. I mean, I wasn't super into the Del Toro one. It was okay. I think more.
I think it'll
Bradley Cooper took me out of it. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll age well, actually. With a little distance, it'll probably look a lot better.
Yeah, but the original Tyrone Power is incredible in it. And I'm not positive, but I didn't realize like he died shortly after this film. I think he died in 1958. I think this film came out in 1957, I believe. So like if you look at him in this film, he does look like pretty... He was looked at as like one of the biggest heartthrobs of his, day. And he looks pretty like tired in this film. And I wasn't sure if it was the character. I mean, they obviously have a lot of makeup on him for, going through the trial, and he's very sweaty and stuff like that. But he's looking a little bit like sickly himself in this film. I mean, he doesn't look like the Tyrone Power of Nightmare Alley, at least for me.
Yeah, I heard he was that he had a heart attack during like a sword fight scene on his final movie. I guess Solomon and Sheba. I'm just looking at the IMDb right now, which is pretty insane because you never know who's gonna roll through life. Because you got Tyrone Power. I mean, a relatively very young, virile guy, and then you have Charles Laughton next to him, who was just riding into a pretty long life. Most likely living the life he's on this movie, smoking and drinking brandy all the time. So,
right, totally. But yeah, this is just for a second talking about Billy Wilder. This is another triumph in this guy's great, catalog of films that he's made. And I am kind of shocked that I had never seen it before. Like you said, I am kind of the old Hollywood guy, and for some reason this film escaped me, but I'm so glad I'm seeing it and talking with you about it now. Because like there are a lot of films that like people know of Billy Wilder. I know this is a popular film, but again, I don't think it's everybody's go-to. And I wonder why that is. Do you know, like, is it, when you talk about Billy Wilder, you don't talk about this film as much as you would Some Like It Hot or even Stalag 17, which is like not a super popular one, but I've seen that above seeing this.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense because it is equally an Agatha Christie movie. It's based on her writings. It's encroached in her story. So it's like a lot of people watching it aren't necessarily watching it because of Billy Wilder. They're watching it because of Agatha Christie. And I'd imagine that was the case kind of back then, because this was, I guess, right before Some Like It Hot and The Apartment. I guess those two, two of his most popular ones are like right after this movie. And because The Witness for the Prosecution is still a stage play that people perform like on stage. So it's like, it's always been a popular one. And so I feel like, yeah, this is the best version because of Billy Wilder, most likely. I haven't seen any other version, but it seems to be the consensus. But it's still popular largely because of Christie's story. So I'd say that's probably like, if you're talking about Billy Wilder, maybe that's why it's like not at the, the very top of the list of the first ones you mentioned.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And also maybe just like courtroom drama stuff can be a little, there's not much action happening. There's not much, there's a lot more dialogue heavy film. And so, yeah, a lot of people sitting through 2 hours of dialogue heavy film, I think would rather be watching Jack Lemmon and, running around dressed up and, fooling the world with Marilyn Monroe.
Maybe. I mean, yeah. So this is the same year as 12 Angry Men, right? 1957.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, I'm a sucker for the courtroom dramas of the 50s, obviously, because those are probably my two favorite movies of
Dude,
the decade.
A Place in the Sun. I mean, you've seen that, yeah?
I have not.
Oh, man, maybe we got to cover that next.
This is why I need you, bud. Which was that?
A Place in the Sun was one of my favorite movies of all time. I really do feel like we need to cover that next time. Just kind of rolling with the courtroom stuff.
Give me a little background on it.
Oh, Place in the Sun?
Yeah.
George Stevens film starring Elizabeth Taylor and Montgomery Clift. That's all I'm going to say, because there's a lot. It is literally one of my favorite films of all time.
Oh, it's based on Dreiser's An American Tragedy. Okay, the novel. So
yeah.
All right, then I see a little bit of it. Sweet. I mean, I'm definitely down to watch that. This is why I need you here. I can coach you on some B movies, but you got to coach me on the classic Hollywood a little bit. Hey man,
I'll cover Humanoids from the Deep anytime. That's one of my favorite films that I've seen in a while, and that's another one that I felt like escaped me somehow, and I just enjoyed the shit out of it. I think I told you one of the last episodes I watched it like 6 times or something like that. It was so good. So hey, I'm in for everything, but A Place in the Sun is one not to be missed.
Oh yeah. I need to send you a little information. Shout Factory is releasing a limited edition vinyl of the score for Humanoids of the Deep, and it's looking like it'll be right up your alley. So
might awesome.
Have to pick that one up for you. Yeah.
Right up my nightmare alley.
Oh, love it. Okay, yeah. Courtroom dramas, 1957. Yeah, so I think that in Billy Wilder's filmography, maybe that's why it's not always the first mention, like I was saying. But, I mean, I think it's up there as one of his best. I mean, that seems to be a lot of people, whenever I hear anybody talk about this movie, they definitely do say it should be up there with Wilder's work.
Yeah, agreed.
And I mean, so as my flub at the very beginning, I mean, Charles Laughton, I mean, I absolutely fucking love Charles Laughton. I mean, with him directing Night of the Hunter in 1955, which, as we mentioned on that episode, we covered it. It was not like well received or a big success at the time. It was basically a failure critically and commercially. And so this was his kind of like rebound from it. He was like the only movie he directed, and he didn't do anything else with that. And so this was his return to like in front of the screen. And, he got nominated for an Oscar with it. And it's definitely viewed as like one of his more pivotal performances. And I think I heard like Billy Wilder quoted, it's like, this is one of my 2 favorite performances that I've ever directed. Charles Laughton in this movie. So, and again, like, I mean, that is like the huge part of it, of why I love this movie so much. He's so fucking good. Every line, every delivery, every interaction, and the characterization, that's mostly Billy Wilder. Cause I know the novel was kind of sparse on some of the characterizations. And so that's a lot of what Wilder added, is all the interplay and the empathy for all the characters. And a lot of like, I mean, Laughton's need to take the drugs throughout the courtroom because of his health. I mean, this was all stuff that was added for the movie from Wilder and expanded on from the novel.
Yeah, I noticed it was interesting at the beginning because he's such like a curmudgeon kind of when he comes, but he's like an endearing curmudgeon, He's
a charming curmudgeon.
Yeah, sure. And it's so weird because as you're watching it, you're like, I kind of love this guy because everybody else loves this guy. He walks in, there's flowers, and he's like, all right, make these on your own time. Like, let's get back to work. And it's like, even though he seems like such a dick, like, it's like that charming dick, Yeah.
Well, I mean, his banter with the Nurse Plimsoll, is so good. I mean, it's just such a great way to start the movie. But yeah, you're right. He is charming. It's like even in his enfeebled state, they install like one of those chairs to go up the stairs for him. And like his first reaction is just to try it out like a ride. He's basically just enjoying it, like going up and down, just like staring at his nurse, just be like, yeah, this is pretty red time. So it's like, it shows that he is a serious person, but at the same time, he's not going to take shit, and he's going to live life the way he wants to.
What did you think of the flashback to Germany scene with how Tyrone Power met Marlene Dietrich? So for everybody listening, we haven't really explained too much about what happens here. In the film, at the end, Tyrone Power is found not guilty of the murder of the woman who, at the beginning, we haven't explained the plot too well. So at the beginning of the film, Tyrone Power comes in and he's he's going to be tried for murder. So he needs Charles Laughton to help him, and he goes in, and there's a flashback to how this all occurs, how he got caught in this mess. And there's an older woman that he shows a kindness to in the store. She's trying on a hat. Turns out she's a widower, and she becomes kind of enamored with him. And then they meet again in a movie, and they go through and kind of have this, like, not romance, but just friendship. And this woman has a housekeeper who just is already suspicious of him. And she ends up, this older woman that is sort of like, are they lovers? Are they not? We don't know yet. They're friends. She ends up murdered. Tyrone Power is on trial now, and everybody is against him. Like, he didn't have any money. He was just out for her money. And then we find out that he actually gets inheritance from her, and he's all excited about it. And he's like, I got to go tell my wife about it. And he's like, oh, wait, this is going to be bad for me. I'm going to look like I actually killed her for this money. He's like, and Charles Laughton's like, bingo, And so it's like, already it's stacked up against Tyrone Power hard. But we got Charles Laughton, who we've fallen in love with, as we've just talked about, being on his side. They make the case to not have Marlene Dietrich, who is his wife, is Tyrone Power's wife, not be on the stand because they don't trust her. She comes in and she's like, hey, all of these things are, I don't really love him, and he and I aren't really married. I had a husband before it. So she's like making the case that, like, she's not going to be a good person on the witness stand for him. And anyway, her testimony doesn't matter in a negative light, I guess, from the way that the judicial system works over there. We're like, okay, we're meeting all these characters. We're figuring out the whole plot. And as it goes through, we get a lot of twists and turns. Marlene Dietrich, we have this flashback of how she met Tyrone Power. And it's like, whoa, they actually did fall in love and they were lovers. And like, this looks like, I don't really get it, because it sounds like she's not good. Where did it all go wrong? Why does she not like Tyrone Power? Then they get a phone call halfway through the trial from this woman who's like, I got the goods on Marlene Dietrich, and, I'm going to, show you why she's like lying up there on the stand. Then all of a sudden, back in the courtroom, there's this whole she's lying on the stand thing because of this letter that she wrote. And all of a sudden, Tyrone Power is not guilty. And now we're back in the courtroom. It's just Marlene Dietrich and Charles Laughton. And she explains that she made this whole thing up. She was playing this lady who outed her. So, a double role for Marlene Dietrich, like set a whole setup to get Tyrone Power off, which is like insane, because she's basically perjured herself and looked like a liar so that the Tyrone Power would look good and get off. And then Charles Laughton is like enraged, and he's like, how could you fricking do this? This is insane. You're going to go to jail, for perjury, and we're going to get Tyrone Power. And then Tyrone Power comes in all like swanky, and he's like, ha ha ha, we gotcha. And hey, I know you're sick. Let's not get all out of proportion. We don't want you to get hurt. Marlene Dietrich is like falling all over him. And all of a sudden we're seeing this version of Marlene Dietrich. It's like, wait, she really does love him. That whole flashback scene in Germany was right. Like she really loves him. And then we have Tyrone Power has a new lady come in and is all over him, and he's kissing her, and Marlene Dietrich's like, what? Holy shit. And he's like, hey, you said that I wasn't your real husband. Well, now I've got like a new lady. And he starts to walk out, and Marlene Dietrich is like, well, I can't have him, nobody can. Stabs Tyrone Power. He dies. Back to Charles Laughton, who's like, oh man, this is fucked up, but I got to go back to work. and now he's assumingly going to go and help Marlene Dietrich out of this jam, but he's now got the help of his nurse, who's like, you know what, I get it now. You should have all the brandy and all the fucking cigars that you want. And assumingly the next day is going to be a trial to help Marlene Dietrich get out of jail because Tyrone Power pulled the wool over everybody. So hopefully that explains what we're talking about here. I know that's a lot of spoilers, but that kind of is the full extent of this film, and which is why the ending is so powerful, because of all the things I'm talking about, like the flashback to Germany and all that stuff. And so my original question to you was like, what did you think about placing that scene in there? Did you feel the same way I did? Like, whoa, this is not what I had assumed of Marlene Dietrich and how they've set her up before the scene.
Well, first of all, that was beautiful. Kudos to that description. Loved it. I'll get to one thing at the end of Charles Laughton, but to answer your question, yeah, I mean, because it completely flips everything on its head when you go to that flashback in Germany when they meet in the war. It is completely genuine. It is completely believable, and you do get a sense of that they were in love, which is not what you were thinking at all, seeing anything before that, when Christine came to Laughton's office and to describe what was going on. Yeah, I mean, I loved it. It's so about Agatha Christie. It was great with setup. Like I said, Wilder was adding a lot to the characters, but the bones are all there. And the way the first half of this movie sets everything up, you can't look away. Because
it's hard to trick the audience, like it really is. And all of these things that kind of come in and out, the whole time you're being played so hard, but you don't know it. Like, it's really hard for an audience to not be smart enough to realize that. I feel, that's why I always feel like some of the early Shyamalan films are so good. Like you don't know until the end and you're like, of course that's what it was the whole time,
I was going to say Shyamalan watched the end of this movie with 5 or 6 twists, and he's like, "Oh, I found my calling card for sure." But then, back to the very ending. Laughton's reaction after Christine does that to Tyrone Power, he says it wasn't murder; it was an execution, and basically that was him, taking on the case for Christine, then moving forward. Like, there's nothing you see. The movie ends with him getting the brandy from his nurse, but it's definitely suggesting that that's where the story will continue, and which is kind of, which adds, it doesn't necessarily feel like you want to see a sequel or anything, or even watch how it unfolds, but it just adds so much to everything you just saw for the previous 2 hours.
And she gives him a little look as she's walking out too, and you kind of get the understanding that these two are like, wow, we've both been played, and now what we really need to do is help each other in this next round,
Yeah. And then going back to Tyrone Power, I mean, because the first half of the movie, he just plays this kind of innocent, mildly charming guy who's just like, I didn't do anything. But then he's just increasingly gives such a much louder performance as he's trying to defend himself in the courtroom. And then, as you say, at the end, when he comes out with all the swagger, it's like everybody's so the opposite end of the spectrum of where they started with the start of the movie.
Yeah, totally. It's one for someone to, again, as I've said many times before, put your cell phone away and enjoy the ride. This one was really, really satisfying as far as movies go. You don't have to have the perfect ending in movies or anything like that, but you just have to enjoy the ride. And this is entertainment. I mean, at the end, you're like, wow, I've been played, my emotions have been played. And at the end here, it's not what I thought it was, but it's even better than I thought it was. That's a really, really hard thing to pull off. And I guess that's why this film has stood the test of time of being, it's been a play, as you mentioned. I mean, I would love to see this on Broadway. I would love that. It does feel like that. You could totally see this as a really, really well done play. And then I guess there's 2 other versions, which I haven't seen, but I would like to.
6 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. I think Laughton and Elsa Lanchester were nominated. Like I mentioned, just it was sandwiched in between Night of the Hunter and Some Like It Hot in the Apartment. So it's like it is one of the endearing ones between everybody's like filmography. Same year as 3:10 to Yuma, as I mentioned, also 12 Angry Men. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely sandwiched in between one of the better years in Hollywood, I would assume. Just in terms of like everything coming out around that time.
I mean, 1962, you have Psycho. I mean, think about what was being made at that time, and everything's so different and eclectic. I mean, even for Billy Wilder, The Apartment is a way different movie than this,
Yeah. I mean, again, like I've always kind of pointed, the 50s, I mean, it's definitely one of your favorite decades, I would say, right?
Oh yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. For a lot of things, music too,
Yeah. I mean, you almost start to see the seeds of, with some of these darker movies, what would come like about 10, 15 years later. But again, with like the Hays Code, like everything was so much more sanitized than directors could be. And it was the time, like, the business aspect was so much different too, because it was kind of what we've almost gone back to now, where the studio is making far more of the decisions than the director. And so that kind of led to the style of film, which would be, a big complete 180 when you get to the 1970s, where it was far more of the decisions being made by the director and not the studio.
Yeah, it's weird. It is like a little bit of like, we're kind of going backwards to the studios being so in control.
Well, that's the money aspect of it. I mean, when you have something like the MCU, I mean, these are movies that are entirely made. Every decision is being made by the studio and not the director, and so that's kind of what leads. And since they make so much money, that kind of like what leads the industry. I don't know. It's very weird. I mean, it's hard now because we're in a whole nother world with streaming. But like, for so much of Hollywood, it was what was performing at the box office was dictating it.
Yeah. Well,
that's my little aside about streaming.
Yeah, I don't know where to go with all that stuff. It's so weird out here in Los Angeles right now with all of the things that are happening. People really looking for work and not a lot being made. I feel like next year maybe will change that, but then I thought 2024 would change all that. It's a very decisive time for a lot of things. AI being thrown into the mix and how that's being used.
You're saying not a lot being made mostly because of the strikes?
Well, not just that, but just, in general, like from the pandemic and stuff, there's like a lot of back catalog of stuff that has already been finished and in the can. And so those are, a lot of new stuff isn't being made. And the new stuff that is being made is you'll see there's a lot of remakes. I just saw a poster for Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. I was like, okay.
I heard that existed. I don't know anything about it, but I'm like, I don't feel like, that was a movie I loved as a kid.
It's a cult movie, Well, I don't know, whatever. Yeah. But there is still like the A24 making these fucking amazing movies. We've talked about it before. I had recently watched Hereditary and I hadn't seen that before, and I kind of like wanting to see Ari Aster's films, and I was like, damn, this is fucking awesome. Why did I sleep on this? Well,
that's the thing. It's just like movies are fucking amazing now still. It's just so fragmented that even if you do know that they exist, you're often, they kind of get lost in the void. So it's like, whereas like, just like I said, like in the past, it's like most movies, not all, but like a majority of movies that were worth your time were at least getting a chance to be in the theaters. And there was at least centralized watching of it. But like now it's like all so much great stuff. You barely even know it may exist, and it doesn't get the marketing, and it's just, you don't know where it's at all the time. It's just so fragmented. It's like movies are great, but they're just not getting the audience because it's so separated. Yeah,
totally well said. It's interesting still, the word of mouth thing. Maybe we can transition. I'll talk about this after this. You think we've talked enough about the film that we covered today?
Yeah. When Marlene Dietrich reveals and says, "Want to kiss my ducky?" He's just absolutely beautiful. That's all I just want to say. So.
I didn't want to just kind of get on a bunch of tangents because we were still talking about witness for the prosecution. But yeah, for anybody out there, this is definitely, I would say, 2 thumbs up if we're going to be using the trademarked rating system of Siskel and Ebert. Maybe we won't use that just because like we don't want to get sued. But you know, we both like the film a great deal. Go see it.
Yes, I'm very happy that I was able to turn you on to this one for one. I mean, the pedigree that you have, it's fantastic that you had a chance to watch this now. And yeah, like I said, it's definitely one of my favorites from the decade. So check it out. You will still be surprised. Is basically what I'm saying with how effective the storytelling is and everything that unfolds. I mean, I've rewatched this multiple times, and sometimes still, by the beginning, even halfway through, I'm like, well, wait a minute, how does this play out? How does that play out? So it's definitely worth rewatching, even if you know how it ends. So,
yeah, and a big feather in Billy Wilder's cap of great films that he's had in his entire illustrious career, I'd say. I mean, he was one of the best directors of all time, and I've always been a fan, and now I'm so glad that I have another great film of his under my belt.
You're crushing it.
Yeah. So let me go into what I was going to say about just word of mouth, you know, when it's good and when it's like, you know, original or whatever, like you still don't really, you can rely on that. As long as a few people see something that's great, it will travel with word of mouth. And one film that I recently saw via your Shudder account that I've just been enjoying cruising through at night when I don't really have anything to watch. And then I want to talk subsequently about the sort of television aspect of streamers that's been happening lately, Criterion included and Shudder. But the movie Late Night with the Devil, have you heard?
Oh yeah, so I put on Shudder one night to watch Joe Bob, and that movie was playing on its live feed on the other channel. So I haven't watched it yet. It had a pretty good reception at the Music Box. A lot of people were checking it out there. So yeah, I've been hearing great things. Chicago actor David, I forget his last name, but he's from Chicago.
Oh, no shit. Well, they definitely talk about, I can't remember if it's the Splains or Wilmette or something like that at the beginning. I think they say he's from there or something like that. Oh, yeah. Anyway, I watched it and I really liked it. But the reason I really liked it, it was interesting as far as like, it definitely belongs on Shudder. It definitely is different than most movies that you would see in the horror genre. And it had like a great new in to it. Like, you know, just that this is this late night show and there's this kind of like side of it where you don't know like too much about the talk show host, but there's, you know, a reveal and you're kind of along for this like fun ride. It was fine. It was really good. And I liked it. I wouldn't be like shouting it from the rooftops. But the reason I watched it is because people were shouting it from the rooftops on, you know, social media and different things like that. And people that I obviously like. And that's where I heard about the film. And I was like, oh, I got to see this. Like, I've seen it now twice that people had said something about it. And that was enough for me to go, well, I better check it out, you know. And that's where I feel like, you know, if there's enough people talking about it out there, then great. Like Skinamarink was the same way, I think.
Yeah, which I still have not seen that one either. I know I'm lagging.
I mean, I thought that was fine too. It wasn't like
that's right. You were not a big fan of it, but some people. I mean, like it was absolutely love it or hate it. It seems like that was the reaction that everybody had. It was like polarized. So, which I mean, those are the movies that I think are often the most fun to watch.
I think you're going to love it. Yeah.
The ones that elicit strong reactions either direction. It's like somebody really hates a movie. That's a movie I'll want to watch too. So
right. If you're in the middle, there's, you know, that's boring, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, like multiple people pointed this out, but I fully subscribe to it is that boring is the worst thing you can be as a movie. So I'll take anything else. So, but no, yeah, I definitely need to check that one out. Like I said, he's from Chicago. It's been getting a lot of good reaction. I mean, it is a great setup. I mean, that the late show kind of format and setting for a story like that.
Yeah, and I think you'll especially enjoy it. It was really good, and that's a cool way to like then also talk about Shudder and Criterion, which I'm sure a lot more are going to follow with this. But because Criterion is so awesome about like these are films already that you want that most, if you trust this streamer, which this is kind of the point of Shudder, and I think kind of the point of Criterion, is you trust their catalog, you trust their picks, you trust their curation, because they're down with the things that you are. If you're a really big, person who enjoys film for artistic reasons, and if you like horror movies in the way that like, only true horror fans do, you're going to love and trust Shudder. Both of them have that live streaming that you just mentioned, like you're watching television. And it's so good for somebody like me, who's working all day long and is kind of like, I don't really want to go in and pick something, because then I'll pick it and I'll be like, oh God, I should really be paying attention. Like I'm not going to watch this. I'll watch it again. And then I never do. Right. But like I'm busy all day long painting or doing whatever I'm doing. I'd like to have something on the TV that I don't necessarily have to pay attention to, but that I could be like, oh, what is this? That's what this live stream has been doing for me. You throw it on and it's like, also Criterion doesn't tell you what it is. So you have to go to like a page that says now, streaming on Criterion. So it makes you engaged with the film to like actually find out about it if you're like enjoying it. Like the other day I turned it on and there was this like really like artistic, amazing stuff with like a donkey. And I was like, what the fuck is this? This is great. And it was that movie EO that's been on. Okay. And I have never seen it and I would have never put it on, but I was kind of like visually like really loving it. And then I realized it was that. Now I'm going to want to go back and watch it. I knew nothing of the film. But that like is really cool way for you to find out about films that maybe you wouldn't have been engaged with in the past.
It's so crazy, just the loop of technology. It's like just I mean, that's TV. I mean, we've gone full circle. I mean. Yeah. You said it at the beginning. It's like we've gone so far away from that we're making a circle back to like, oh wow, somebody's just playing something at this time that everybody else could potentially be watching at the same time, and it's curated in a way that like maybe you should check this out. I mean, it is a general, not like a rejection of streaming, but if everything's an option, nothing's an option. So if you have everything at your fingertips, it's like you're saying, it's like, yeah, I'll probably just never come across this. And if I do, I may watch a little bit of it and then never return to it and probably forget about it. And so that's like you said, with the live streaming with physical media. I forgot to show this. This is my copy of Witness for the Prosecution.
Oh, nice.
So like,
is that a Warner 2-disc?
It's a 1-disc. Kino Lorber, which they do a lot of the old classics. That's they're kind of their MO. Love this cover art. This one, you can see this on YouTube right now. So
he's got his he's got his monocle in there.
Yeah, so I mean that's just one one of 1,000 examples of like a movie like I'm never going to forget Witness for Prosecution because I have the physical copy of it. So. Not that I would forget it. It was obviously an amazing movie, but like you're saying, like stuff kind of just gets lost in the void and streaming. And if you actually have curation, like Criterion or Shudder or physical media, it'll definitely be remembered by at least somebody.
If everything's an option, then nothing's an option. That's a really good way of saying it. I had never really heard it that way before. But Patrick, with the as a writer, I guess that makes sense that you would have that.
No, but it is true. I mean, we're just humans. We only have so much decision-making capabilities in our brains, and it gets exhausted. And so, if you have too much, it just becomes nothing. So
awesome. Well, I don't know. I want to talk a little bit about what we've been up to since the last time we talked. I haven't talked to Pat here, or been engaged in remainders in a couple weeks here. I've had a lot going on, but have you been doing anything in the meantime, while keeping yourself busy while we haven't been talking?
I mean, aside from living my best life, no, that's about it. So,
Well,
no,
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, no, just works good. A lot of road trips on the weekends around the Midwest. I'm happy we got the springtime now, so to be able to get out all over the place outside of Chicago on the weekends, which is my favorite thing to do. Love being in the city, but my second favorite thing is love getting out of the city. So,
did you go anywhere to watch the eclipse?
No, I feel like I was the only person who didn't care about it. It was like the day before, like 3 people asked me. I was like, I didn't know that was happening, and I'm not too concerned with it. I don't know.
Gotcha.
The only thing about the eclipse I can think of now is the last eclipse when they caught Donald Trump like with no glasses, just like pointing up at it, just like with no protection on his eyes. Like,
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Well, okay. Yeah. I mean, hey, no news is good news, as they say.
I mean, I've been watching a lot of good stuff. Been crushing the Godzilla. I'm excited for Music Box's Godzilla marathon coming up. They get a nice 24-hour marathon showing all the Showa era movies. Basically everything since the inception of Godzilla from its first one through 1975. So nice little 24-hour marathon is coming up. I'm very excited for that. A little physical media I can give updates on. So this is one of my favorite pieces I picked up lately. Speaking of 50s inspired movies. So this is from the Shout Factory, the Fly collection box set. This is fantastic. So this includes the 3 original Fly movies from Vincent Price. I think he actually only did the first 2, but then the third one, and then the remake with Jeff Goldblum and the sequel to that. So all 5 movies in this fantastic box art. You got Vincent Price over here, some good, beautiful cover art. Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, the cover art's great. If you're not watching this, you gotta Google this set. It looks beautiful. Yeah.
This is a fantastic box set. I haven't watched the original in a long time, so I'm really excited to see that. I've never seen the second 2 from the 50s, The Return of the Fly or The Curse of the Fly. So I'm excited to see those for the first time. The Fly from the 80s is one of my favorite movies of that decade, easily. And then one thing I do want to mention, The Fly 2, the sequel to the Jeff Goldblum one. Much maligned when it came out. I didn't even like it as a kid, but I did rewatch it a couple years ago. Speaking of at the Music Box, they played it at their Music Box of Horrors. I think it was at like 5 a.m. And so seeing it then made me realize that it is actually a hidden gem. This movie has some of the best practical effects of the era. And it's actually a much better story because it is not just a rehash of the Jeff Goldblum one. It follows Eric Stoltz, who plays Jeff Goldblum's son, who, because of his lineage, turns into a fly. And it's more about his ability to cope with that rather than the same rehashing of the Jeff Goldblum story. So rewatching that, it was definitely a hidden gem that I would definitely recommend people checking out. So because like I said, it was not one that I liked as a kid. Most people hated it, but it definitely got reappraisal recently. So yeah, that's my favorite physical media pickup lately. So
awesome. Yeah, that's beautiful. I definitely haven't seen the original Fly for Vincent Price, and I definitely would like just seeing that box set. I want to watch it like right now.
Oh, you've never seen that? Because I know you're a big Vincent Price guy. So
of course, yeah. But I just for some reason haven't seen that. I wonder if that's on Shudder. I'll have to check it out. Yeah.
It's a fantastic juxtaposition with the remake, which is all about the body horror, but the 50s one is literally just the head of a fly on some dude. So it's such a great. That's the thing. It's one of those 3 movies that were 50s movies that actually got better remakes. The Thing, The Blob, and The Fly. They were all like great 50s horror movies, but then they were expanded upon and made into much more interesting 80s horror movies. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, because like nobody really kind of talks about the Steve McQueen Blob, even though like Steve McQueen's in it. It's like kind of not the best one.
It's those are all good movies. I think that one. The Blob is in Criterion. I think it's a good relic of the 50s. But yeah, the remake is fantastic. So
yeah. Well, cool. I'm glad you're doing well, seeing good stuff, and continuing your physical media journey.
I mean, it's very comforting for sure, especially like you're saying in this time of streaming ubiquity. It's a good return to form. So, I've been enjoying learning more about a lot of the boutique labels that are going as strong as ever now. I mean, they're as profitable and successful as they've been in a long time. So you can tell that's a reason people definitely want to hold on to their movies. So
yeah. Awesome.
How about you? What else have you been watching?
Well, I've been to a couple cool theaters. I went to this screening of there's a for your consideration Emmy thing for Netflix, and so I went to the Netflix campus for the first time and saw a film there.
Yeah.
I saw not a film, but it should be a film anyway. You watch Black Mirror at all? You ever seen it?
I'm familiar with it. I've never watched it though.
There's a Black Mirror episode with Josh Hartnett and Kate Mara and the guy from Breaking Bad, Aaron Paul. Nice. And anyway, it's there was a screening with Josh Hartnett and Kate Mara was there and the director, and it was cool, man. The Netflix campus is legit. Like the theater in there is like, whoa, like so beautiful, so cool. We got to meet Josh Hartnett, and my favorite thing, I was able to be like, dude, I'm so stoked for the new Shyamalan film.
I heard about that. Yeah. So he's the starter, right?
Yeah. And he goes to me, he goes, it's pretty dark. Because it's called nice. Trapped, right? So it's about I guess a serial killer that's trapped at like kind of like a Taylor Swift type concert with his daughter, and they're basically it's like a trap to catch the serial killer. So
that's that's kind of like a 90s throwback. I'm just thinking of like a couple of movies like Johnny Depp, like Nick of Time, or what's the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie when he's like stuck in the ice skating rink and he's got to like fight the guy. He's just like entirely in that one location. I'm just having vibes of like those 90s movies with that setup, it sounds like. So hopefully Shyamalan's feeling the 90s influence, which would make sense right now.
Yeah, and I gotta say, Josh Hartnett, man, like kind of like just kind of a badass. Like I love that he's kind of back, and because we
were mentioning him like a year ago, like where he's been, and then since then he was in Oppenheimer, he's in Shyamalan now. So,
and he's kind of one of those actors that just kind of seems like he doesn't need too much of the limelight and down to earth. He looks like in person, I was like, this. No wonder this guy's a star, because he's like this handsome guy, but he looks like in his later years here, a little bit like what he's got a mustache. He looks a little like Clark Gable-ish, like classic Hollywood. And I think he's like he's probably going to have a really long career from here on out. I think whatever he did. I mean, I loved him in Virgin Suicides. I loved him in Halloween H2O, of course. Pretty great. Yeah.
I rewatched Faculty a couple of years ago. Still is a fantastic movie.
My girlfriend was just talking about The Faculty. I was like, hell yeah. You forget he was in a ton of stuff, but it also is a reminder of how fast time is flying, because I think Josh Hartnett now is 45, and Pearl Harbor, remember, with Ben Affleck.
I haven't thought about Pearl Harbor in somebody. I saw that in theaters, and I don't think I've thought about it once since then. Is it good?
I mean, Pearl Harbor's trailer, I said this back in the day when we were working at Suncoast. The trailer for Pearl Harbor should have won an Academy Award. It was so good. It made me like so pumped to see it. Felt so American. Like there's kids playing baseball, and there's like, the Japanese planes going overhead, and you're like, oh my God, like this is going to be the greatest story ever told. And then like you see the film and it's like this weird like love triangle, and kind of sucks. But like there's that South Park episode. It's like Pearl Harbor sucks. I don't know if you. I think it's in the movie. I think it was in the movie. But anyway, I've been seeing a few of those screeners. We got to see a Jimmy Fallon 10-year thing with him, and he was so cool, so nice, so personable, and nice. Like. He seems like just like so happy to be doing what he's doing, and I love seeing that when you see celebrities who are just like, man, I got the best job of all time. So I've been doing a little bit of that with my lady because it's Emmy time. Everybody's trying to whip up the votes, and I definitely will vote for all of those. They were great, and then I can segue into my musical pick of the week if you want. It kind of segues into a little bit of what my life's been like.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
So, the bummer of life is that when you have things you love, eventually you have to let them go. And we all experience loss at some point in our lives. And my girlfriend and I lost our two. Well, we didn't lose them, but they had to pass on into heaven. And my sweet Miss Kitty and Mr. Cat are no longer with us, and they both passed away within a week of each other. Mr. Cat was 17 and Miss Kitty was 19. And, as most of you out there, I'm sure can relate, they're with you for so many things of your life, so many iterations of yourself, and they're your confidants and all those things. So my girlfriend and I have been really heartbroken, but also very grateful for the time that we've had and doing our best to kind of honor them and everything that we do, because they were so good to us in life. And, it's still so fresh and we're still so sad. But I like the fact that I've been able to sort of, whenever these things happen, see them sort of in a lot of things, or remember them in a lot of like things that you're listening to or you're watching, and saying things like oh, Mr. Cat would have loved this film, like, or Miss Kitty would have loved the song. So I've been walking around, I go on a daily walk, and there's a million songs that make me think of them and the love that we had. But one song in particular is a song by Murdered by Death called Send Me Home. And it's from their album, their 2015 album called Big Dark Love. I'm surprised that Murdered by Death hasn't made its way to our podcast yet, because I'm a huge fan. I went and saw him in a cave one year in Kentucky. It was like, I'm just a big fan. And I loved their 2008 record called Red of Tooth and Claw, I believe it's called. And it's every song on that record is a fucking hit. And it was my favorite record, and it still is, of all time. Fast forward to 2015, and this is the best record they've made since that record. And a lot of it, when I saw them that year in the cave, they talked about this song about, I believe one of their grandfathers had passed away, and they wrote it about sort of his life in an old age and sort of what it was like before he passed. And I was listening to the song, and it's a lot about like, every morning being in pain, and, like we have to let things go at some point, but like, it's almost like you don't want to, and you don't feel like you can move forward, but you have to. And it's from the sort of the grandfather's perspective of like, if I have to ask you, will you send me home? And it's really beautiful, and it's really poignant. I mean, as we get older, you shut down, your systems fail, and you get sick, and sometimes you feel like you could be a burden, on the people you love, because ultimately when you go through something hard, it's a very, very hard to be the person who's healthy, and it has to be there to help someone else. And then at the end of it, you go through a lot of grief. And, we're going through that right now about what could we have done differently? You start to question yourself. Did I, give them everything I could? And there's so many levels of it, and one thing that, you get a lot of empathy for people who have lost, and you're really connected to things, and I'm really connected to this song. So anyway, there's like a lot of beauty in it. At the same time, it's really sad. And this song, I feel like, encapsulates a lot of what it's like to be in the position of the person who's sick, and what it feels like to be ready to go, and what that means for everybody else. And that's my pick of the week. Send Me Home, from the 2015 album Big Dark Love, which is all great, by the way. The whole record is great. There's a line in another song I just want to say really quick. There's a theme of big dark love, I feel, and there's a theme of like, I don't want to be this burden, I feel like, in that. And I've been a nasty sometimes, and I've been whatever, but I don't want to be a burden for you. It's like, there's one song that has a lyric, hold on a second. I don't want to be some wounded bird to care for, an unrewarded job for you. That's the last thing I want to do. And I love that, like some wounded bird to care for, you know. I don't want to be this. I love you so much that I don't want to be this burden for you, you know. And there's something about that that's in this song I'm mentioning too, that I think is so beautiful, as the person who can be sort of going through something and maybe it's really painful, but you also have to think about the people that are going through the hardships of taking care of you. You know, it's interesting. So anyway, that's a long way around. That's my pick of the week.
Love to hear. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm very happy you have that that art and that music to console you in that hard time, because I know we've already talked, and I know that's a difficult thing, very much so, that I can understand losing your two cats like that. So I definitely been thinking about you both, because I know that's not easy, and hoping the best. But like I said, it's a fantastic thing that you have, for one, the experience all those years with the cats, but then also to have the art to remind you about them. So
yeah, thanks for saying that, and thanks for sending those pictures of you and your kitties. You know, there's just like a lot of things I'm talking about where you know that people understand, and maybe just for everybody listening out there, sometimes that's all you need. You know, like maybe that's why people post the photos of their cats or their dogs or their loved ones online. They just feel like I need to get this out and share this, and then, you know, sometimes you would think, well, that's like a very private thing, but sometimes like maybe that's what you need to do. You need to let people know this is really hard for me. And then you get a lot back, you know, even if it's just what, you know, you hear from people you haven't heard from in a while, and they can empathize with you, you know, and that's what we do here on this podcast a lot, is we talk about empathy and like why the films matters so much. It's like you just want to be connected to something that makes you feel like your existence is relatable to everybody else on the planet. You know, we're all trying to connect to each other.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, I mean, I'm excited to hear that song, because I'm a fan of Murder by Death, and but that one I'm sure I've heard, but it's not ringing a bell on my head right now. But I'm excited to hear it, and with the idea of your two cats in mind. So
yeah, awesome.
Well, I'll move into my pick, which I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it. It's nothing crazy like any black metal. This is actually a nice consoling song. This is Brian Eno, actually. So I've mentioned him a couple of times. Somebody I very much love. Pioneer in modern classical and ambient and experimental music. So I'm going with one of his songs from one of his first like kind of big shifts into ambient from 1975. His album Another Green World, which is an amazing album. Absolutely love it. But the song The Big Ship is going to be my pick of this week. It's a short song. It's only 3 minutes, but it really does capture the genius of Brian Eno, and that he was able to at such a pioneering stage, like I said, in ambient and creating a sense of emotion and style within like an instrumental song, using synthesizers, new technology, but still combining it with rock. Is such an influential album, and the song itself is so filled with like it's very cinematic. So like I said, it's only 3 minutes, but you like run the entire gamut of emotions just hearing it. I would recommend like listening to it on headphones, because like every single scratch, every single turn and where it goes with the instruments and just where they come from, where they play with each other. It's an absolute fantastic song that I love. And like I said, it's the power of instrumental music to create a style and a reaction, you know, without any lyrics or anything, is something I've always loved. And Brian Eno was an absolute pioneer in that. So
Cool. Yeah, I don't know much of his work, and I'm sure there's people that are listening, and maybe you that's going to laugh. But can I ask, is he more so known for instrumental music, or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was Roxy Music. Roxy Music, and then, like I said, in 1975 was a pretty big shift for him into like purely ambient music. I mean, he's had a couple songs that have been used in film. I think in Ending. I think that's the title of it. If you hear that one, you would definitely recognize it in a few movies. But yeah, like I said, like he creates very cinematic, ambient, experimental music that is, that's the difference between music you hear in a movie and music that is just purely meant to be listened to by itself. There's a lot of overlap for sure, but like his is definitely a little bit more of like telling a story just by what you hear rather than making music that'll add to a certain feeling at the end of a film or something. And like I said, There's overlap of it, but yeah, that's definitely his MO. And like I said, with him pioneering it in the 70s with the use of the burgeoning technology, all post-rock and modern classical now is like indebted to him because he does use like rock instruments, but it's all classical kind of structure, I guess, but in an experimental way. So, I mean, like I said, I love instrumental music, and he's definitely one of the kings of modern classical. So.
Awesome. Well, yeah, for everybody listening, if you don't know, we do run a playlist on Spotify, Remainders Jukebox, and it's always in the liner notes of our episodes. So you can find a link to that in this episode, and there's a plethora. I've been wanting to use that word for a while. A plethora of great music in there that we've been recommending since we started, maybe since 2023. So it's quite a collection that's been growing and very eclectic.
Oh, it's definitely one of my favorite go-tos for revisiting songs. So you got some bangers on there for sure.
Yep. And some surprises, couple Bob Dylan's, and one that is very, every time it comes up with it, I can't help but laugh. The Christmas song is so funny.
You can't deny it. When you just rule the world like Dylan, you just end up having to make something like that.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say, I did see two great shows, two bands I've been lucky enough to work with. Bayside, they played at the Wiltern. And then I saw our hometown heroes Alkaline Trio play at the Novo. And I got to say, the Alkaline Trio show that I saw was possibly the best time I've ever seen them. Matt Skiba's voice was better than I remember it being back in the day. Like he's in rare, like amazing form right now. And if you get a chance to see them, or get a chance they're playing in your town, I would say go, because they're really on top of their game right now.
Oh yeah. Love to hear that. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, hey, awesome episode. Great to be back, Pat, after a little bit of a break. Thanks for understanding. Thanks for sharing so much and caring. And everybody out there, thanks for listening. We love doing this podcast. We talk about it all the time. And stream one of your favorite films, or go to the Criterion or Shudder and turn on the TV.
Or get your copy of The Fly.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong.
100%. Well, I think it's possibly going to be A Place in the Sun next month, in 2 weeks, because I'm pretty jacked on it now that you talked about it.
Let's keep in the 50s and start teaching me more than what I'm missing out on. So.
Yeah, you got it. Well, hey, thanks everybody for checking out this episode on Witness for the Prosecution, Billy Wilder's great film from 1957. We are at remainderspod.com, and from there you can find all of our social medias. We post this on YouTube where you can see us, and how we look at 8 in the morning LA time and 10 in the morning Chicago time. But it's also obviously available everywhere where you stream. And tell a friend, give us a comment. We love to talk to everybody about the movies. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you, brother.
See ya.